May God bless your day and your entire week as you join us for this journey. Today, we are taking a deep dive into something that feels, well, like it's pulled straight out of an espionage thriller.
Oh, definitely. It really does.
Right. Because, I think we tend to associate espionage with like modern geopolitics,
Right.
wiretaps, satellites, the Cold War, that sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. But the mechanics of deep cover, political tension, double crosses, I mean, those have been shaping human history for millennia.
Exactly, which is why today we're unpacking the historical and really the theological layers of Joshua chapter 2. We are looking at an ancient undercover operation using study notes from the Holman and NAA study Bibles.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look at the cultural, architectural, and spiritual dynamics of this text.
It really is. So our mission today is to figure out how this incredible story unfolds. And to do that, we kind of have to put you, the listener, right in the middle of the camp. So the year is roughly, what, 1406 BC?
Yeah, or maybe 1220 BC.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on how you date the historical Exodus, but either way, it's a long time ago.
Right, a very long time ago. And Joshua is the newly minted leader of the Israelites. So Moses, the legendary figure who led them out of Egypt, he has passed away.
Yeah, which is a massive shift in leadership.
Huge. So Joshua is holding the reins now, and the burden is entirely on his shoulders. The Israelites are camped at this place called Shittim.
Which, by the way, translates to the Valley of Acacias.
Oh, okay. So they're at this Valley of Acacias, and they are looking across the Jordan River at the land of Canaan, and sitting directly in their path, literally controlling the main routes into the Central Highlands, is Jericho.
Right, and Jericho is an imposing, heavily fortified oasis city. I mean, it's a fortress.
Yeah. And Joshua, he knows that a frontal assault without any intelligence is, well, it's military suicide.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
So he executes this really brilliant, pragmatic move. He secretly sends 2 spies, and they're unnamed, by the way, across the river to reconnoiter the land.
Just 2 guys.
Just 2 guys. Their mission is to gauge the morale of the city, understand the layout of the defenses, that sort of thing. So they slip into Jericho, and they have to make this immediate, critical decision about where to set up a safe house.
Right, because you can't just wander around a fortified city looking like a tourist.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they go straight to the house of a woman named Rahab, and her occupation is very clearly stated in the text. She is an innkeeper, and she is a prostitute.
Right. And, modern readers might see that as scandalous, or at least a little shocking for a biblical text. But socially and architecturally, she is basically the perfect asset.
Oh, 100%.
It reminds me of like that classic spy movie trope. An agent slips into a foreign capital and they head straight for the busiest, most chaotic tavern on the trade route.
Right. Right, a place where strangers aren't questioned and local gossip just flows freely. And what's fascinating here is that cinematic instinct, it's completely backed up by the historical reality of the ancient Near East.
Really? How so?
Well, according to the study notes, this combination of running an inn and engaging in prostitution, it was a very well-documented, established socioeconomic reality. If you look at the Code of Hammurabi, for instance.
Which is super old, right?
Yeah, it's one of the oldest deciphered sets of laws in human history. It actually predates this event by centuries, and it regulates these exact types of establishments. Jericho was this major crossroads for north-south and east-west trade caravans.
So having a constant influx of, merchants and foreign travelers and wandering mercenaries, that was just another Tuesday for Rahab.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a foreign operative trying to blend in, an inn located on the city wall, run by a woman whose very business involves entertaining and housing strangers, it is the single most logical place to vanish.
You can just sit in the corner, gather intel from loose-lipped travelers, and no one is going to give you a second look.
Exactly. Your presence is easily explained away without drawing any immediate scrutiny from the authorities.
It's a calculated masterstroke by these spies, but as we know, even the best covers get blown.
Yeah, they do.
So word reaches the king of Jericho that Israelite spies have breached the city. And worse, they've been tracked directly to Rahab's tavern.
Right.
So the king sends his messengers, his elite guards, banging on Rahab's door. And they demand that she hand over these hidden Israelites.
Which means the tension just goes from 0 to 100 in seconds. She's a subject of the king. Harboring enemy combatants is undeniable treason.
And the penalty for treason is death. No question.
Absolutely death. So she has to make this life-altering choice in a fraction of a second. But, and this is key, she's already taken preemptive action.
Right. Because before the guards even arrive, she takes the 2 spies up to the flat roof of her house and hides them. and she hides them under stalks of flax that she had laid out in order.
Yeah, the flax is such a crucial detail here.
I really want to pause on that because I feel like for a long time I just pictured like a random pile of weeds up there. But there's actually a massive industrial process happening on that roof.
There really is. The study Bibles point out that drying flax stalks on a flat roof was a vital time-consuming process for manufacturing linen textiles. Making linen isn't like picking cotton.
Right.
You have to take the flax plant, harvest these long stalks, and soak them in water for days or even weeks. It's a process called retting.
Retting.
Yeah, and it basically rots away the cellular tissue to leave the strong fibers intact.
Meaning those stalks are going to be incredibly pungent. Like they're going to smell terrible.
Oh, awful, yes.
Ugh.
And once they're soaked, you have to lay them out in the hot sun to dry completely before you can comb them into fibers. So because flat roofs were the standard architecture there, they were the perfect utility space for this kind of intense agricultural work.
So when the guards think about her roof, a massive foul-smelling pile of drying flax stalks would just be the most normal thing in the world.
Exactly. It's the perfect, unsuspicious physical cover for two adult men.
A brilliant improvised bunker. So the guards are at the door, demanding the men, and Rahab looks them right in the eye and just spins this massive, elaborate lie.
She really does.
She says, yes, the men came to me, but I had no idea where they were from. And right at dusk, just before the city gates were about to close, they left. I don't know where they went, but if you hurry, you can probably catch them.
It's a phenomenal piece of psychological misdirection.
Seriously, she sends them on a wild goose chase toward the Jordan River fords.
Right. She uses the impending closure of the city gates
Right.
to create this false sense of urgency. It forces the guards to act before they can even think about thoroughly searching her property.
Okay, but we have to unpack this. Let's address the elephant in the room. She blatantly lies to the authorities.
Yeah, she does.
And we often expect, ancient sacred texts to present flawless moral role models. So how do these study Bibles handle the ethics of a biblical heroine flat out lying?
It is a critical tension, for sure. But when you examine the broader historical and textual context, the experts point out a clear distinction. The narrative here is descriptive, not prescriptive.
Okay, meaning it's describing what happened, not prescribing it as a rule.
Exactly. It's telling you exactly what happened in a brutal, militaristic ancient world. It is not commanding the reader to adopt lying as a standard ethical practice. In fact, the biblical text never explicitly excuses or praises the lie itself.
So it's not giving like a blanket endorsement of deception.
No, not at all. What the narrative focuses on, and what later historical writers focus on, is her extraordinary faith. Her active, risk-taking faith to protect these spies.
It kind of reminds me of the classic Corrie ten Boom dilemma during World War II.
Yes, perfect analogy.
Like, if the Gestapo is at your door asking where innocent people are hidden, the higher moral law is the preservation of human life, even if it requires deceiving a corrupt authority.
Right. And the notes actually draw a really strong parallel here to the Hebrew midwives in Egypt, centuries earlier. When Pharaoh ordered those midwives to execute the Israelite baby boys, they lied to Pharaoh's face to save those children.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that connection.
Yeah. In both scenarios, you have vulnerable women utilizing deception in a life-or-death crisis to protect innocent lives from a hostile regime. Her actions proved her new loyalty to the God of Israel.
And later biblical texts praise her for that, right?
Yes. Books like Hebrews and James, they commend Rahab specifically for her faith, welcoming the spies and sending them off safely. They celebrate her courage, not the ethical nuances of her statement to the guards.
Right. So the guards take the bait, they rush out, the heavy wooden gates of Jericho clank shut behind them, and the city goes into total lockdown.
Which means the immediate physical danger has passed.
Right. But this transitions us from what she did to why she did it. Like, why would a marginalized Canaanite woman commit high treason for two foreign strangers?
That's the big question.
So she goes up to the roof, pulls back the flax, and delivers this absolutely incredible confession to the spies.
It really is the hinge upon which the entire military campaign turns. She tells them that the entire land is terrified. The literal phrase is melting in fear because of the Israelites.
Melting in fear. That is such a vivid image.
Yeah, and she doesn't just offer this vague feeling of dread. What's fascinating is she quotes specific historical events that they've heard about.
Right, like viral news of the ancient world.
Exactly. She mentions the drying up of the Red Sea during the Exodus.
Which, wait, that happened 40 years prior.
Exactly. For 4 decades, the story of the Exodus has been echoing around these trade routes, building this mythic dread. But she also couples that ancient miracle with a very recent, bloody reality.
The Amorite kings, right?
Yes, the recent destruction of the Amorite kings, Sihon and Og, on the east side of the Jordan. These were massive regional warlords. The fact that this wandering nation just annihilated them means the threat is real, and it's literally camped on Jericho's doorstep.
So she connects the dots, and she recognizes the absolute supremacy of Israel's God. She declares, "The Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below."
The magnitude of that statement, I mean, you really can't overstate it. She's a Canaanite, right? Steeped her entire life in a polytheistic culture that worships localized deities, storm gods, fertility gods, gods tied to specific valleys.
Totally localized.
But the language she uses here is covenantal. The study notes highlight that it sounds like it was lifted straight out of the book of Deuteronomy. She recognizes that the God of Israel is the sovereign authority over all creation. It's a remarkable spiritual conversion.
It really is. She has this profound spiritual awakening, but, and I love this about her, she also has incredible street smarts.
Oh yeah, she knows what she's doing.
She realizes she holds all the leverage. She just committed treason to save their lives, so she uses that to strike a deal. She basically says, look, just as I showed you beneficence, you have to swear by your God to show the same to my family when you conquer the city.
And there is a very specific, weighty Hebrew word operating underneath that request for beneficence.
What's the word?
It's hesed.
Hesed.
Yeah, it's one of the richest terms in ancient literature. It roughly translates to love and kindness, or steadfast love, or covenant loyalty. It implies a deep, legally binding commitment to someone's ultimate well-being.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, ancient treaties were usually forged between powerful kings or massive armies using this concept.
Which completely reframes what's happening on this roof. You have a marginalized, outcast innkeeper, essentially forcing God's representatives into a legally binding treaty of mutual salvation. She's securing a future for her family.
Exactly. She understands the mechanics of covenant. She says, I've demonstrated Hesed to you at the risk of my own life. Now I require you to swear an oath that you'll show Hesed to me when your army breaches these walls.
The spies agree, but they lay down strict conditions. They say, our lives for your lives. But she has to follow the protocol exactly. She has to gather her entire extended family inside her specific house. If anyone steps outside the door, their blood is on their own head.
Right, the spies are released from the oath if that happens.
And to mark the house, she has to tie a scarlet cord in her window. Now, on a tactical level, I've heard this compared to, like, a high-stakes do not disturb sign.
But do not disturb sign, I mean, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, but that feels a little too passive. It's more like diplomatic immunity, right? That red cord turns her apartment into a foreign embassy. As long as they stay inside, they are on protected ground. But the study Bibles draw a much deeper theological parallel here, don't they?
They do, yeah. There is a profound thematic resonance that points directly back to the Passover event in the book of Exodus.
Oh, of course.
Right. During the final plague in Egypt, the Israelites had to paint the blood of a sacrificed lamb on the doorposts of their houses. That red blood protected the families from destruction. So the vivid red color of the scarlet cord in Rahab's window vividly recalls this salvation.
It's the exact same architectural mechanism of salvation.
Exactly. In both cases, salvation is secured for a household through a visible red marker on the structure itself. And the strictest condition in both scenarios is that everyone must remain inside the marked architecture to survive.
Wow, that is such a cool connection. But speaking of the architecture, I need to ask, how could a house be part of the city defenses? The spies tell her to tie the cord in the window, and then she literally lets them down by a rope through that same window because her house was built into the city wall.
Right, which sounds impossible to us today.
Yeah, wouldn't a defensive wall just be a solid block of stone?
You'd think so. But when you look at the archaeological notes for that era, cities like Jericho rarely used a single solid wall. They employed what's known as a casemate wall system.
Casemate, okay.
Yeah, it's a double wall structure. You have a massive outer defensive wall and a secondary inner wall with a gap of several yards of empty space between them.
And people were actually living in that gap.
Yes. Houses for poorer individuals were often built in the space between the inner and outer walls. As real estate inside the city center got scarce and extensive, the most marginalized people were pushed into these cheap mud brick dwellings in the wall itself.
Literally living in the crosshairs of any potential siege.
Exactly. So that explains how her house was on the wall and how she could easily let the spies down through a window facing outside the city.
Which perfectly explains the getaway. She doesn't need to smuggle them back out through the heavily guarded city gates. She just repels them down the outer wall under the cover of darkness.
And before they go, she gives them one final piece of advice.
Yeah.
Head west into the mountains and hide there for 3 days until the search party gives up.
Because the guards went east toward the Jordan River.
Exactly. And the notes mention that the limestone caves west of Jericho provided the perfect hiding spot.
So they follow her advice, they wait out the 3 days, and then they cross back over the Jordan and give Joshua this triumphant report. They say, "The Lord has given the whole land into our hands."
Which is such an amazing contrast if we connect this to the bigger picture.
Right, because of what happened 40 years earlier?
Yes. 40 years earlier, Moses sent 12 spies into this exact same territory, and that was a disastrous public mission. Those previous spies came back terrified. They focused entirely on the obstacles, the giant warriors, the impenetrable fortresses.
But this secret two-man mission operates completely differently.
Right. Encouraged by Rahab's confession, these 2 spies focus on what God is doing. The faith of an outcast Canaanite woman actually fortified the faith of the Israelite army.
That is just incredible. So, as you were listening to this today, what is the ultimate aha moment here? For me, the most staggering realization is just Rahab's identity.
Oh, absolutely.
The study notes really emphasize this. She was a Canaanite. She was a prostitute. By every conventional metric of the ancient world, she represented everything the Israelites were supposed to conquer.
She was the ultimate outsider.
But she was spared. And that proves that Israel's conquest wasn't strictly along ethnic lines.
No, it wasn't. There was room for anyone who placed their faith in the God of Israel.
And her legacy doesn't end there, which is the craziest part. She is famously listed in the genealogy of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew.
It's one of the most remarkable narrative arcs in history.
She goes from living in the mud bricks of a doomed wall to being central to the story of humanity. And I want to leave you, our listener, with this final provocative thought to sort of mull over on your own. It is fascinating how the fate of an entire military campaign, and arguably the lineage of Jesus, hinged on the brave, subversive actions of an outcast woman living literally on the margins of her society's walls.
It really challenges you to consider who we overlook in history, you know?
Exactly. Who are the unexpected sources of monumental change today? Because sometimes the most vital intelligence doesn't come from a sterile war room. Sometimes it comes from the people society has pushed to the very edge.
I love that. The most world-changing faith is often found in the places you'd least expect to look.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the shadows of Jericho and the incredible courage of Rahab. God blesses all of you listening.